God, we thank you for our city. Thank you for our elected officials, our institutions, our families, and the individuals that make our city the great place that it is. Grant that our city would be known as a good city, a city of peace and hope, a city with happy homes, a city that welcomes the stranger, a city that cares for the needy, a city that defends the innocent from evildoers. We pray for this council meeting tonight. Give the council members wisdom and guidance as they deliberate on the items before them. May every decision be honorable in your sight for our benefit and your glory. Amen.
Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Lilly.
Here.
Sanders.
Here.
Williams. Broderick. Thomas.
Present.
Wade.
Here.
We have before you the minutes from the regular meeting on February 26, 2024, as transcribed. Can I get an approval?
For adoption.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Brooks and seconded by Councilmember Lilly.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
And it passes unanimously.
You have before you February's 2024 financials. Any questions or concerns? I do want to note that actually our city sales and use tax is actually up from last year and last month. So City of Sherwood is doing well. Moving on, can I please have the great honor of having Dawn Daughter please come to the front so that we may recognize you for your induction into the South Central PGA Hall of Fame. And while she's coming up there, not everyone's involved in the golf community, but I want everybody to know how lucky we are to have someone like Dawn in our community. And so I wanted to kind of give everybody a little bit of a background about her and about this award that she has received. So I know it's a little awkward for you, Dawn, but please bear with me. She has been a PGA professional since 1984. Her journey includes various roles at clubs in Nevada and Arkansas, and she has participated in the U.S. Women's Open 3 times over 3 different decades. Her skills with the clubs go beyond question, but she's also a celebrated member as a mentor and inspiration for aspiring golfers. As a dedicated ambassador for the sport, she has tirelessly created opportunities for golf enthusiasts across the region, earning accolades such as her chapter's Player Development Award 3 times, her chapter's Youth Player Development Award 8 times, and the South Central PGA Youth Player Development Award in 2018. She was also selected for the South Central PGA's highest honor, the 2019 Golf Professional of the Year, and this came on the heels of her 2018 induction into the Arkansas Golfing Hall of Fame. The South Central PGA spans the entire states of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and a portion of Kansas. Within this region, each South Central Section PGA professional serves as an expert, excelling not only as a player and a teacher, but also as an adept business manager, community leader, and superior merchandiser dedicated to enhancing local golf services. Her passion is truly junior golf, as we all know. I would also like to recognize the fact that To give you an example of what a great business manager she is, last year, despite the renovations of the parking lot at the Greens at North Hills, we had a record year with 17,483 rounds of golf played. And that's up from 16,052 rounds of golf in 2022. Dawn, in 1 year, increased the revenue by over $18,000. All I can say, Dawn, is well done. We are so lucky to have you. You are a gem in our community, and you are treasured and beloved. Let us please give her a round of applause. Next on the agenda, we had recognition of a Sylvan Hills High School graduate, Mackenzie Young. That we will push off till May because of school commitments. We always love recognizing the achievements, and so, council members, always let us know, and perhaps there are things we can do to make that presentation even stronger. So thank you, Councilmember Williams, for bringing this one to our attention. Next up, we have committees and commissions. We have Advertising and Promotion Commission, Councilmember Brooks.
We do have some minutes in the packet. However, there was not a quorum at the AMP meeting, so we did not vote on anything. We just had some friendly discussion. So if anyone has any questions on our discussion, please ask now. Otherwise, our next meeting will be the first Wednesday in May at 4 p.m. right in this very room.
Great, thank you.
First Wednesday in April, excuse me, in this very room. I'm
Okay.
jumping ahead of myself.
Next up, we've got Parks and Recreation Committee, Councilmember Harmon.
We did meet. We met on March 11th, also in this room, and the minutes are in your packet. If you have any questions, just let me know. There was a good review of existing updates and work being done. There's also a discussion there about accessible playgrounds, something that's been important to me all the time I've been on the council, and I'd like you to look at that if you would. Take the time to look at that discussion. Like I said, if there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll be meeting on the first Monday in the next month here at 6 o'clock.
I just want to commend the staff. When you said, I saw that there were 78 seniors participating in that new senior rate. Thank you, Parks and Recs, for creating that, and both staff and committee.
And I want you to know, Councilmember Harmon, that you know how motivated our Parks and Recreation Director and Assistant Director are, and so they have already met with a company that does playground planning and installation. And we should have something to bring forward before the council regarding some equipment and location at the next council meeting.
Terrific. Thank you.
Next up, we have Planning Commission.
Good evening, Shelby Smith, City Planner. So the first item up is for the sign ordinance, and at this time, staff would request that we withdraw this item from the agenda. We're going to come back with a fresh document that does not need numerous amendments in April.
Can you, when you send the new document next month, I know that we couldn't redline it because there were too many changes, but will you highlight so that we can have the old document and the new one kind of highlight like the major changes so we can
We can,
compare it? Thank you.
yes.
Yeah, I would move to table this for 30 days then.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilmember Harmon to table the motion and a second by Councilmember Brooks. Roll call.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders. Wade. Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next up, we have an ordinance amending the official zoning district maps for the property located at 10023 Highway 107 and for other purposes.
So this next item on the agenda, it is a rezone request from R1 Single Family Residential to C3, which is General Commercial. The use on the property is currently a commercial use, and it is compatible with the land use plan as commercial corridor. So with that, Planning Commission recommended approval.
I have a silly question.
Okay.
So when I looked this up on Pages' website and looking at all that, I couldn't find a 10,023, but I found a 10,025.
Yes, there-
What's the variation there?
There is an addressing issue. Along with this rezone application, there was an application to replat, which was also approved. So once the replat is accomplished, it will assume the correct address.
Okay,
It's
so-
been an issue for years that has just since not been resolved.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So voting on this, we would be voting on the correct address, and we won't have to do this again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
And didn't you share with me that right now it's a non-conforming use and it be in,
The use would then be conforming to the
Yes.
underlying zoning,
Thank you.
correct? Yes.
Do we have a motion?
Move we suspend the rules and place it on second reading?
second?
We have a motion by Councilmember Lilly to put it onto second reading and a second by Councilmember Williams.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders. Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick. Thomas. Williams.
Aye.
An ordinance amending the official zoning district maps for the property located at 10023 Highway 107 and for other purposes. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and put it on the third reading?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams and a second by Councilmember Brooks to put it on the third reading.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders. Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas. Williams.
Aye.
An ordinance amending the official zoning district maps for the property located at 10023 Highway 107 and for other purposes.
Move for adoption of the ordinance.
Councilmember Brooks has moved for the adoption with Councilmember Sanders seconding it.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders. Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas. Williams.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to Street Committee, Councilmember Lilly.
The street committee did meet. We had a quorum, and we had an item of business that we've got a resolution on, but you do have unapproved minutes in your packet. Would just ask anyone have any questions about the goings-on at the meeting? Okay, we do have a resolution.
We have a resolution appropriating funds for the Laramie Drainage Project and authorizing the execution on contracts in connection with the project. We do have someone signed up to speak. If you'd like to come forward, please. If you'll please state your name and your address.
My name is Elizabeth Patterson, and I live at number 2 West Laramie. We are on the lake, however, and we have a crawl space. So there's about 3 houses on the corner there that all the water that comes down, that's where it congregates. And so we've been asking for years if there could be some kind of drainage. There's already some drainage pipe that goes from the curb to the lake, but they're starting to collapse. We have a couple of big sinkholes in our yard. It's mainly our home, you know, it goes up underneath our home. It cracks, you know, our foundation moves. We've had them out, we've been there 15 years, and we've had them out twice to redo our foundation because it shifts, because of all the water up underneath there, and it goes through there. So we're not saying the water doesn't need to go to the lake, just could we route it to where it doesn't go to our homes through there? And we would really appreciate some serious consideration on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, any questions?
Just thought of one as I relooked at the minutes. because I thought from your conversation, it was like $388,000 is in the resolution, but there's something that said it might come in more closer to 300,000 or something. Is that correct, Mr. Lilly?
Well, there was some discussion about, potential ways to maybe do that a little cheaper than what was originally looked at by the engineer. And Finley was going to go back and see exactly, what we could do if it were possible. And I don't remember the exact details of what we were going to change or try to change to do it a little more efficiently. But, this particular issue has been an issue for a long time. And, we've kept on kicking the can down the road. I mean, now we're at a spot where we do have, pipes that are collapsing, and the problem continues to get worse, and certainly not better. So, this effort, I mean, would be an all-in at $388,503.75. So, and with the expectation that we could potentially come in a little cheaper than that, not expecting any large amount of decrease in cost.
Okay.
But this would address the issue that Ms. Patterson's talking about.
It would absolutely address that, and there's actually several homes, right? If you're coming Laramie, the first couple of homes there on Laramie, and then several homes up Indian Head Drive that are on the west side that are impacted. So this goes far enough up Indian Head to collect that water and get it to a place where it can drain sufficiently without creating damage to homes. I know, talking to several different homeowners over the years, we've had homes that have been re-leveled. We've had homes that have, multiple times in some cases. All kinds of water barriers put under houses, moisture rot. I mean, there's a lot of problems that this is causing. And now we're at a spot where it's just going to continue to impact more and more and more, and we need to do something.
Did we not have a problem on the corner there with a house on the corner of Indian Head and Laramie at one time?
We do, we did and we do.
We did and we do,
Would this
okay.
resolve that issue as well?
Because I
both issues.
remember that, we had a big problem there. So this will solve, we still have the same problem going on?
Absolutely.
Yes, all
This
these
is
years.
the Gannises, if I say their name
Yes,
right.
yeah.
I hope I didn't butcher it, but, they were the ones with the original complaint in the original issue. And quite frankly, over the years, because it's been pushed off, the problem's just grown, further west on Laramie and further north on Indian Head. So, we've got the funds in the reserves to handle this, and it's time to get it taken care of.
And Mr. Patterson, I understand you volunteered to forfeit your boat dock, so
Yes, and,
Thank you.
and I wanted to add too, this has been looked at by 2 engineers separately and then reviewed together. So, I mean, this has been thoroughly vetted.
So this will be coming out of general reserves. This wasn't
street
allocated.
reserves.
Street
Street
Street fund
reserves.
reserves. I'm glad we had the street fund reserves to do it with.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution.
I'll
Second.
second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brooks and a second by Councilmember Lilly.
Brooks,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Sanders. Wade. Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas. Williams.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations. You're welcome. Next up, we have a resolution naming Anthony Rusnick to the City of Sherwood Civil Service Commission. He is present. Anthony, could you stand up and? Do we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams and a second by Councilmember Thomas.
Brooks,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Sanders. Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
A resolution amending, and thank you for your willingness to serve. A resolution amending Resolution Number 17, 2022, with respect to a substitute agreement with Rock Region Metropolitan Transit Authority, authorizing the mayor and other officials to execute the agreement on behalf of the city and for other purposes. We will now have a presentation by Rebecca Green.
There you go.
Okay. I'm trying to connect to our consultant who will jump in on this presentation, so pardon my AirPods. So we're.
And make sure you're talking to as best you can. Thank you,
Yes,
Becca.
will do. Okay, well, thank you, Mayor and council members. We just wanted to recap the Sherwood microtransit proposal. It's been 2 years since we've actually, or almost 2 years since we visited with this council. So for the benefit of anyone in the room who has not heard of this and one of our newer council members, we'll just quickly do an overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to Luba Guzai, who is one of our consultants from VIA Microtransit Software Service. They are the new software vendor that we are working with to operate our microtransit service. So our mission statement, of course, is to provide safe, reliable, convenient, and cost-effective transit service, which we hope to do here in Sherwood with our microtransit service. Our board of directors, we have Nicole White here tonight. She represents Sherwood on the board, and the rest of the board members that you see represent Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Pulaski County. This is a slide of our executive leadership team, and with us tonight, who will be speaking after this presentation, is Justin Avery, our Chief Executive Officer. And the rest of our team works hard to put this transit in place for everyone who's a member of our jurisdiction. This is just a map of the Little Rock urbanized area as determined by the U.S. Census Bureau. It's simply to state that the entire area in green is the Little Rock urbanized area, which of course includes more than Little Rock and does include Sherwood. What this means is that if Sherwood wants to use public transit dollars from the federal government to operate public transit service, they must work through Rock Region Metro because we are the designated recipient of federal funds for the Little Rock urbanized area. Okay, just a little history. Of course, in 1986, Sherwood was part of the interlocal agreement group of local jurisdictions that joined together to create the Central Arkansas Transit Authority, or CATA, which is now Rock Region Metro. We just changed our name, but we're the same organization. But in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, as most people in the room know, we canceled the Route 36, which was the Sherwood and Jacksonville Express route, due to declining ridership and our need during the pandemic to use those bigger vehicles in areas of higher demand. And so subsequently, 2 years later, in 2022, the City Council entered an agreement with Rock Region Metro to operate microtransit service within the city as long as we could get available vehicles, which we'll tell you more about here in a minute. And that is with the help of one-time CARES Act funding. Of course, the benefits of having this partnership are that you're using the state's largest public transit agency and you're engaging in a somewhat familiar ride-hailing, ride-sharing service. Most people have used Uber or Lyft or a ride-sharing service that's similar to that. This is not the same, but it's similar, and it uses smaller vehicles to get people from point to point within a zone. And it also uses our experience working under the Federal Transit Administration and following all the regulation there to provide the service. And of course, it addresses the transportation needs in your community. The service design, we worked with Foursquare ITP. That is our on-call planning services consultant group, which has not changed since the last time we visited with the council. But also we worked with our newest microtransit software provider, which is VIA. Again, Luba is here on this call, and she will walk you through their simulation of the Sherwood service. We previously did a similar simulation with Transloc, which was our former microtransit software service. And of course, you'll think back to when we last spoke with you in 2022, we had several meetings with the Sherwood leadership leading up to that, and we also looked at Sherwood information from Metro Plan, with Metro Plan is, of course, our long-range transportation planning public agency that is federally mandated to work on the long-range transportation plan, and they also provide a lot of data for the area, including data in Sherwood about where people are driving, what the traffic flows are and patterns and things like that to help us with the setting up the service. And should we decide to move forward with the proposal tonight, we will, of course, take this to stakeholders within SureUp, representing the business, health, and academic and social services sectors to make sure that everything is shared with the public and make sure that we're not missing any key things that we need to be considering. Okay, just again, microtransit is a shared point-to-point accessible hailing ride-sharing service using smaller vehicles. It's ideal for areas of low or emerging transit demand. We've been operating microtransit service for 4 years in Little Rock and North Little Rock, and most recently in Conway. It's a tech-driven demand response service, so you can use an app on your phone, a free app, to hail the ride. And you can also dial in on a phone number if you do not have a smartphone. But unlike Uber and Lyft, it is a shared ride service, meaning you're agreeing as a rider to maybe perhaps deviate out of your way a little bit if needed to go pick somebody up who's also hailing a ride in the same area. And then it's also, we have a dedicated purpose-specific fleet, so we have a set planned number of vehicles in service to use for the service. And then unlike Uber or Lyft, it doesn't have surge pricing. It's always a predictable fare, which is needed for people using the service. For Sherwood, we wanted to make sure that we had this microtransit service that offers easy booking, a real-time arrival information for your vehicle. So just like you can see on an Uber and Lyft in your app, when the ride is coming, you can do that as well in our app. Reasonable wait and travel times, and affordable fares. And again, the booking is done through a mobile app. It's called Metro Connect Rock Region. And again, microtransit can support a variety of trip purposes, so the trips can be of any type. You can use it to get to a job, you can use it to get to school, or some training programs, shopping, whatever you'd like, as long as it's within service hours. It's great to, it's used in other markets as well for access to park and rides. We don't really have park and rides here yet, but that could be something in the future as we grow as a region, and for gap service. So some agencies across the country use it for late night service or weekend service exclusively, things like that. And it's also a great way to gauge demand for transit service because unlike fixed route service, it collects a lot more data. That's real-time data to know what everyone's origin and destination point are, so you can really see what the hot spots are and where people are wanting to travel. Okay, so we've talked about this before, but wait and travel times are a function of how many vehicles that you have in service at any given time. It's sort of like if you get to, for example, an airport on a Sunday night and you can't find any rides on Uber or Lyft, that's because no vehicles are in service. So the demand is directly related, and the wait and travel times are directly related to how many vehicles you have in service, and of course, how big the zone is. So usually you're trying to keep your microtransit zones smaller to accommodate the number of vehicles that you can and then grow from there. Rock Region Metro has budgeted 2 vehicles for service in Sherwood, which Justin will talk about here in a moment, and that would be for 12 hours of service per day, Monday through Saturday. And of course, the service is determined by the assessment of the transit market that we have done in the past. Okay, so I am going to now pause my screen and ask Luba to share hers. And I'll make sure I can get this pulled up. And I'll turn it over to Luba to talk about the VIA. Luba, we're ready to pull up your VIA simulation.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. Let me turn on my camera also. Hi. So my name is Luba Guzet. I work with VIA Strategies, and we conducted the assessment to understand what a potential Sherwood service could look like. As I talk through the slides, if there are any major questions, Becca, please feel free to direct them my way. VIA is the world's leading provider of advanced public mobility solutions, and that includes microtransit. So we have the greatest number of deployments across the US of any provider, and my team, VIA Strategies, is our in-house consulting team. So we've carried out over 100 microtransit studies across the globe, more than any other provider, and we leverage our the knowledge and the data that we have from existing services to inform how we think about service design and how we analyze what potential service zones could look like. And I'll talk about a little bit more about our methodology as I go through this presentation. So the way that we conducted the study was first we executed an existing conditions analysis, and I'll walk you through what that looked like. I'll then talk through how we estimate demand and what our simulation looks like, and then I'll share some results and recommendations based on our work. So we like to look at and evaluate what different demographics look like within a proposed zone. Here on the right, you'll see a series of maps looking at different demographics. In general, the darker the color, the greater the density of people with that characteristic are within Sherwood, and Sherwood is the purple outline that you'll see on the map. So here we're looking just at straight population numbers. In the city limits, there's about 30,700 people, and the area is 15 square miles. We also look at job density because jobs tend to be a driver of transit use. There's a little over 6,000 jobs in the city, and they're generally concentrated towards the south and a little bit towards the west. And this suggests that there's a lot of commuting happening beyond city limits for the purposes of employment. We like to look at seniors, and the next slide will be about youth, because these tend to be folks that are more transit dependent. So here we see some concentration of seniors towards the center and the south, and generally outside of the city limits as well, and it's about 20% of the population within the zone. Similarly with youth, we tend to see some concentration towards the center, but bigger pockets outside of the city, and again, that percentage is about 20%. In general, we don't see a ton of variation within the zone, and that suggests to us that you could have a smaller zone, but that a citywide zone is likely to serve people with similar characteristics across the city. Poverty is at 8% within the city, and again, you can see that there's a greater concentration of poverty outside of the city limits, towards the east and then towards the southwest. Finally, we find that lack of car ownership and one-car households also tend to drive transit usage. In this particular case, there's very high car ownership within the city. There's only 2% of households that are considered to be car-free. And again, they're pretty evenly dispersed. There's a bit of a concentration towards the center, but in general, quite dispersed across the city. And so this informed us in terms of how we thought about the simulation and how we thought about demand patterns across the city, as well as looking at these identified trip generators that tend to be concentrated along AR 107 and US 167, and in general, again, sort of tend to follow the patterns of where we saw those jobs and where we saw concentrations of population and some of the demographic factors that we considered. So we carried out this analysis, and then we moved on to estimating demand and simulating the services. So we estimate demand in the following way, which is that we take the service zone and we apply a multiplier based on what we see in comparable zones and the kind of ridership we see in that area. In this case, we used Conway, which is an existing service zone with comparable demographics and characteristics to think about how ridership there could translate and inform the ridership estimates that we would have for Sherwood. And so basically the demand is based on the geography that we're capturing and the characteristics of it. We then set a quality of service that we think is acceptable. And so in this case, we use the same quality of service that's happening in the rest of the Metro Connect service. So thinking about what walking distance is acceptable, what wait times are acceptable, we set those maximums to be similar to the rest of the service so that all of the services feel similar and that they have a high enough quality of service that we think that riders will like the service and find it to be sufficient in terms of meeting their transit needs. And then these two, triangulating between demand and service quality, we run simulations using our proprietary software to determine what supply is necessary to meet the demand that we expect at the quality of service that we want. So really, we're taking demand and service quality and we're solving for supply iteratively in our simulations. And our simulations are underpinned by the exact same algorithms that actually serve our very services, our live services that are out in the world. So we're using the same technology and really trying to understand and emulating what a real life service would look like on the ground. So basically, this process is laid out here. We do data discovery, we generate the demand scenarios, we design what the service will look like, and we run simulations, and then we iterate and optimize to get an understanding of what we think the right supply is, given the demand that we see. So next I'm going to talk about results. Before I show you the slide, I'm going to tell you what you're about to see, because it's going to be a table with a lot of numbers on it. So what we've simulated is basically, like I said, taking the service zone, estimating what we think demand is, and we've done a low and medium and high demand, and then we've solved for that supply. So basically we've iterated through different numbers of vehicles to determine what is the minimum number of vehicles that we need to serve that ridership at the quality of service that we're happy with. So those will be the first numbers I'll talk through. Then we also ran that simulation looking to see what it would look like if we had our medium case demand scenario and only a single vehicle serving the zone. Basically, in the first case, we're solving for and we're fitting the number of vehicles to the demand. And in the second case, we're constraining the supply, we're constraining the number of vehicles and seeing what happens to the quality of service. So let's talk through it on the next slide. So, okay, on the left, I'm going to talk through what the numbers you see are. So we have demand, quality, and efficiency. And then on the right, across the top of the table, you'll see the dark blue is where we've fit vehicles to ridership. And in the light blue, we've constrained the vehicles. So basically, I'm going to talk through the green column first. This is the medium demand, where we fit the vehicles to the ridership. So we estimate that on average, on an average day, the total number of trips that will be requested will be about 75. Lower demand is about 50% of this, high demand is about 150% of this-ish, so, around there. And so all of the numbers are sort of, compared in a similar way. Met demand is 97%. Now we think met demand is actually the most important element of quality of service. There's nothing more frustrating than pulling out your phone, wanting to get a ride from a microtransit service, requesting that ride, and it says no vehicle is available, right? And so that is one of the top things we aim to solve for and that we aim to meet. For us, an acceptable level of that demand is somewhere in the 97, 98 to 100 range. The minimum threshold that we tend to accept in our simulations is 95%. And we prefer for it to be higher. So here we see, low demand is 100, medium demand 97, high demand 98. Totally acceptable. This is where we want us to be. Medium demand needs 2 vehicles to meet that number of trips. And then we see wait time is, 20 to 25 minutes, travel time 10 to 15 minutes, and the total trip time, which is that wait time plus travel time, is about half an hour to 40 minutes. Again, we think these are totally acceptable, totally in the normal range for what we would expect from a good quality microtransit service. And the utilization number, which is basically telling us how many trips per vehicle hour are being completed, is 2.8. In general, we tend to think, 2.5-ish is a pretty good service. Above 2 is acceptable. So 2.8, we're pretty happy with that. And now in the low demand, we think you need 2 vehicles, and in the high demand, we think you need 4 vehicles. But in general, medium case demand, that's about what we'd expect to see. 2 vehicles is your sweet spot. Now, moving over to the right-hand side, this vehicle constraint scenario. So here we have that same 75 number for the daily trip requests. So again, using that medium demand, but we've constrained the supply at a single vehicle. And you can see that met demand number, the one that we think is so important, has dropped to about 50%. That means that about half of your riders who are interested in getting a ride are gonna pull out their phone, request a trip, and it's gonna say, there's no vehicle available to take you to where you need to go. We find that this basically discourages people from ever trying to take a ride ever again. And so you might do all this marketing, you might get people to try to take the service, and if the first, one time or a couple of times they try to take the service, they can't get a trip, well, they're not gonna try very hard again, right? And so we really want this number to be much higher. We see that wait times, travel times, and trip times collectively tend to be higher for this constrained service. Utilizations, that's high, we like that. But in general, we don't think this is a very good quality of service. So the takeaway here is basically that if you are anticipating medium performance in the zone, that 2 vehicles is really the minimum that you would need in order to launch a service that you would anticipate would be successful. We also looked to see what this would look like if we included an additional connection to Baptist Health. This is some ways outside of the zone. This is basically providing an additional connection outside of city limits. So here you can see that demand has gone up from 75 to 90 per day. Met demand, when we're fitting vehicles to that demand, still 98%. We like that. 3 vehicles, so that number has gone up. The rest of the quality of service and efficiency, this is all sort of in that ballpark that we're happy and we find totally acceptable. So if you want to add that external city connection, you'll probably need 1 additional vehicle beyond what you would have used just for the in-city service. Now again, we wanted to test what this would look like with that vehicle constraint. So that's over here in the light blue. You can see that demand is the same number, 90. With 1 vehicle, you're only serving 43% of demand. So that's an even greater portion of riders who are saying, hey, I want a trip, and oh, look, I really can't get one. And again, all of the wait times and the travel times, all of these numbers are also higher. This makes a lot of sense, right? People are going to be traveling longer distances, so these numbers go up. Utilization, looking pretty good, but this doesn't actually matter because it's very hard to actually keep riders consistently using a service where you're not able to provide the trips when riders want one. So the takeaway here for us is, probably the most efficient and effective place to start is this medium, or is this 2 vehicle service that is just the city limits. This allows you to test, this allows you to iterate, see what demand is like, make sure, there's not some crazy skyrocket in demand that you wouldn't have expected. So 2 vehicles, we think this would be a really, really solid service, and then see how it goes, evaluate, adjust from there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Becca, is there anything else that would be helpful for me?
No, thank you, Lisa.
I appreciate it. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Can we leave it on the presentation? Yeah, just on that last slide.
Excuse me, I didn't hear that.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll pull up your slides separately, but we know you're leaving,
so we appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, perfect. And I can move between that one and the non-connection, right? Just so they have that information.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Council members. As we were getting this slide up there, I just really want to hone in on that metric of met demand if the city chooses to stick with 1 vehicle in this zone. Truly, it would provide poor service for your residents, and I don't think it's something that the city council should consider. So in your agenda packet, I believe you've got multiple attachments from Rock Region Metro. I believe the first one is our original contract for 1 vehicle with Sherwood. I'd like to turn your attention to the second contract and just to show the differentiation here. It'll be redlined in the preamble. Number 3, you'll see the vehicles change from 1 to 2. So I'll give you a couple seconds to turn to that one. Rock Region Metro is committed to providing the best quality of service to all of our customers, and I do not believe it would be in the best interest of the city council or my board to continue with an agreement with only one vehicle. However, I understand there are financial constraints, and Rock Region Metro has offered to pour in some additional CARES funding, specifically for the first year of your agreement if the city council chooses to move to 2 vehicles, which would maintain the same level of funding you agreed to 2 years ago. That is on page 3. And then the payments would step up accordingly as they did by the same ratio in the original contract. And so, of course, you can run the numbers there if you don't believe me, but they do work out. So over 5 years, ultimately, Rock Region Metro would reduce the amount of CARES funding subsidizing this service, while Sherwood would increase their share. Just to draw your attention to one column over on the left, the total cost column, it did change from the previous one, but it did not double. When we originally built this budget, we weren't 100% sure how much microtransit would cost, how much the service would cost, because we hadn't really run it outside of Little Rock and North Little Rock. Now we have more than a year's worth of data with the city of Conway that's really helped us hone in on what that budget would be. So I think originally it was like $228,000 for one vehicle. With the new recommendation, it's increased to $310,000, almost $311,000. So not exactly a double increase, probably more about a 1.5 increase. Another big item to point out for the city council, if you'll turn to page 4, you'll see a whole bunch of red lines. We've taken out the early termination fee. Rock Region Metro, if the city chooses at any point that they no longer find this service to be beneficial for its residents, Rock Region Metro could easily use those vehicles in other zones within North Little Rock and Little Rock. So we didn't see it fair. I didn't see it fair to penalize or ask for additional funding from the city council as we're requesting y'all to move from 1 vehicle to 2 vehicles. And I would also request that the city council hold off on a connection to North Little Rock initially, as our consultant said, until we actually understand what demand is within the city. And then, over 4, 5, 6 months, I think we can plan potentially on getting a 3rd vehicle if that demand continues to increase and our met demand metric continues to decrease out of favor. So again, my 2 requests from the city council ultimately is to approve this second contract that's in your packet to move to 2 vehicles and to hold off on that initial connection to North Little Rock for the first 6 months to allow us to get some really good data to show and bring back to the city council that can show you exactly what that demand is, which would also give us enough time potentially to prep for purchasing additional vehicles. Ultimately, in my mind, this is no risk, all reward. It's not costing the city any additional funds, while also, again, addressing a significant issue here that you've been faced with today. 43% met demand is unacceptable. It's unacceptable to me, it's going to be unacceptable to my board, and it should be unacceptable to the city council. I think the easiest move here is to move to 2 vehicles, try the service out. If you don't like it, we can take our vehicles elsewhere and we can use them within our cities also. So at that, I'll take questions if there are any.
Okay, it's no risk because we've kept year 1 numbers the same.
No risk, it's not going to cost you any more money, and you're no longer obligated to pay that termination fee.
And termination fee's gone.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood that.
Yep.
So since July of '22, we haven't had any of the services, right?
That's correct.
I mean, so.
You haven't paid us anything, and we haven't provided any service.
Yeah, so why not? I mean, we agreed, with this board that, hey, we wanted to move forward. We signed an agreement and nothing happened. So, I would think if we would have moved forward, we would know by now, we would have data already collected, and instead of coming back and saying, almost 2 years later, not quite, hey, we don't think we've got enough to supply what we think would be demand. So I'm just wondering why we didn't do anything after we had originally approved it with a connection to North Little Rock.
Yeah, well, we haven't had the vehicles, so there's a long history of that. Initially, we entered into an agreement for some ProMasters. Supply chain issues happened and occurred, and the vendor canceled their contract. We then immediately entered into another agreement with another vendor for some additional ProMasters, but at that time, we were experiencing some significant mechanical issues in our Conway service where we were having to hold vehicles because of brake pad issues with less than 10,000 miles on our lot, not being able to release those out to the public. I made the decision to cancel that contract with the Dodge ProMasters, and we entered into an agreement with a final firm for 4 Transits, which are now delivered. So your vehicles are here, they're getting wrapped, they're getting installed. Service is ready to roll out here in the next month, a month and a half. But it is not going to roll out, and it can't roll out with just one vehicle in the zone.
So during that period of time, I have received exactly 0 phone calls complaining about, hey, why do I not have, any kind of transit service offered to me, that you guys agreed upon. So I don't know what that indicates, what it doesn't indicate. I mean, I don't know how many others have received phone calls asking about that. But again, my number has been 0. So, I mean, I like the idea, hey, another, year one with no additional risk. I mean, that's appealing, but I mean, shoot, we've wasted almost 2 years, and that's disappointing. That's my 2 cents.
Will you tell us about Conway's, the usage? I mean, do you have demographics? Are those college students? Are they senior citizens?
I could probably turn to Becca. I don't know if we have any specific demographics. I will say this, Conway service immediately exceeded our expectations. And so demand far exceeded supply. And there were times when individuals were requesting rides in Conway, which had 2 vehicles dedicated to it, and they were getting wait times of over 2 hours. City council members hear about it up to today, their inability to get a ride through our app. The mayor of Conway immediately identified the issue during probably the first week of our service and asked us to purchase 2 additional vehicles, and those have just arrived too. So they have already committed financially to move from 2 vehicles to 4 vehicles. But Becca, if you want to talk about demographics.
Sure. Conway is a 3-college town, and there's a lot of people using the service. I think the most surprising thing to us is how many people were living in Conway who don't have regular access to a vehicle. So there are actually more than you would think, and those are the people who are using the service. I mean, it runs the gamut. So we haven't yet. We're going to do an enhanced rider survey later this year, so we'll get some more demographic information, hopefully, from that, specifically tied to Conway. But what I can tell you is that a lot of people who use wheelchairs or mobility devices are using the service because all of the vehicles are accessible. And so that's really made a big difference in Conway. I think they had access previously to probably, if there is such a service here in Sherwood, a Medicaid-based service that had to be booked days in advance that's just for medical trips. So with this service in Conway, they're able to go grocery shopping, go visit a friend, do different things that are beyond just medical purposes. So it's kind of opened up a whole new market. And the demand, as Justin said, exceeded supply on day 14 of service. And we've been operating it now since October of 2022. I will just provide a note. What Justin was saying about the demand in Conway was true, and the longer wait times. And as part of our transition away from Transloc, which was our previous software provider, to VIA, this is a purely on-demand service now. You don't book it in advance. We were finding that that just wasn't working for the market that we're dealing with and the demand. So it's on demand. And if the app can't book a ride for you in the next 45 minutes, it'll tell you to wait and try again because we're at a peak demand period. So like what Luba was talking about with her slide, you can see that the average wait and travel time total is under 50 minutes, which is how we originally hoped to plan the service in Sherwood when we began talking about this 2 years ago. So hopefully with the number of vehicles increased, we would be able to not have that message pop up. At least, 98% of the time they're forecasting that we could meet the demand.
Will you remind us, when you say risk-free, are we committed to 3 years, or are we committed year to year?
You're committed to 3 years unless terminated earlier. So your terms of agreement are on page 1 under term number 2 there, 3 years with 2 additional 1-year periods.
But let's say we finish year one,
Mm-hmm.
and to your point, it's no additional cost than what we agreed to, and if we say, we don't have the ridership, we don't need it.
Yep.
We don't have to continue with year 2 and year 3.
That's correct. You would just pay for what's owed, whatever's already been incurred.
And the early termination, which was taken out on page 4, is
Correct.
what saved.
That, yeah.
All right,
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, my
let
apologies.
me, that's fine. Becca, did you say, was it 75 people you're saying is what the ridership looked like? 75 people a day?
That's what a medium demand is.
The median demand, which is
Yeah,
what we're looking at?
without the connection, correct.
Right.
Correct.
Just
75.
within the city.
Okay. And I'd like to know this demographic. So if I take a ride to the store, do I assume I take the ride back home? I mean, is it normally a two-way? I mean, I know it's $2 to go and then $2 to come back.
Yes.
What percent of the people actually return home?
Every day, we're taking calls from people in Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Conway that are making initial trips, and then later in the day, they're returning from their trip. So grocery store,
Is it
different
80% of
places.
the people are doing that? 100%? Do you know?
I think it's probably 100%. Well, it can't be 100%. I think there are some students who maybe do a one-way trip. Mom or dad's maybe busy later in the day, can't pick them up,
Gotcha,
they
okay.
take themselves home kind of thing. So it's never 100%, but most of them are making round trips, yes. So
And-
2 separate trips.
I mean, I'm looking at the $87,000, and that's per year I'm just talking about the first year. If you divide by 12, that's $7,290 a month. And it's my understanding, Justin, because you asked us to come and meet with you, and I did, that every person that pays, so if people actually had 75, and they go 2 ways, that's 150, and they paid $2 both ways, that's times $4, and then they did that for 20, I mean, there's so many days in a year, in a month, that's $7,200.
Yeah, ultimately, you're asking, do the fares get netted against the final bill? And the answer is yes.
And the fares get netted against it, so it appears in that first year, we may be out as a council or as a city, $90 a month instead of $7,200 a month, if at a 75-person per day
Yeah, I
rate.
would probably say that the daily requests are total requests, so
Oh, so,
back
okay,
and forth
all right.
is what I would imagine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so then cut it in half. So,
Yeah, yeah.
So of a $7,000 a month, we're gonna be spending $3,500.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, I just need to kind of talk that out in my head.
Are we currently obligated under the the old contract, the two?
Technically, but I'm not gonna hold y'all, it would be only for one, but I'm not holding y'all are gonna charge y'all $100,000 for service you never received. That was never the intention.
What kind of reporting intervals would we expect to see ridership numbers from you guys?
Monthly.
Monthly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I like that, thank you.
Mr. Lilly, I have not gotten any calls either, but it could be because it's not, people know it's not a service that's offered. Will you remind us, with this fee, you guys help promote this, is that right?
Absolutely.
Can you tell us, what is the advertising that goes out to the community?
So usually when we set up a zone, what we'll do is we'll work with the city council and the city staff to set up some public information meetings before we actually implement the service. So we can present what the service is, when it's starting, what it costs, what it's used for, what the zone parameters are, all of that stuff, what the vehicles look like, all of that, and then we'll produce the service after that. So we would work with your team to set a launch date. As Justin said, we're able to move quickly. We have the vehicles, but it's usually, I would say, just most people are comfortable with about a 2-month period to set a public information date and have maybe a month in advance where you guys are helping to market that, how you would any public meeting in Sherwood. And then we'll come in, do the presentation, and then we launch the service usually a couple weeks after that, And I will say that we have had, I don't have any hard data on this because we're just not set up to collect it right now, but we have had multiple requests over the years for Sherwood service of some type because not a lot of people were riding Route 36. We know that from the historical data, but that doesn't mean there's no interest period in people getting around from public transit. And if it's anything like Conway, there's a market out there that you don't even know about. That is mainly housebound for a lot of the day that might be able to get out and about with this service. So just know that we hear from people, and they're more likely to call us because we're the providers of transit service for the market and the region.
Well, we do have a senior citizen van that takes our senior citizens around, so we do have that in the city. So this would be in addition for the non-seniors in the city, so I do think your service is valuable, but I would expect that you guys would be the marketers of this, not, since you're the one selling it. We do have a public information person that could market some, but I would expect you guys to be the marketers of this.
We would be, and we have a variety of ways to do that. And if it's anything like Conway, it'll kind of market itself. Once you put a service like that out there, when people realize they can use it and get around and have opportunities and independence that they didn't have before, you'd be amazed. The word spreads like wildfire. We don't have to do pretty much any advertising in Conway if we didn't need to. It's just totally just blown up, the demand, so.
I've got a question to piggyback on what Councilmember Brooks said. When you all were figuring out the 75, that 75 median ridership, did you all take into account the current services with the Senior Citizen Center?
I don't believe that Luba did that. That was the VIA team that put that together. What they were looking at was things like, they said that it's a 15 square mile area. They looked at your population. They looked at the jobs density, things like that, 0 vehicle households, and pulled all those kind of demographics. And then they kind of set it up and kind of put it through their simulator and looked at what was going on with Conway and kind of did some adjustments based on how big you guys are in comparison, things like that.
Could I ask our senior director, Mr. Campbell, how many rides do we give a week, or do you have that, or a day, or?
It varies, but coming to the center, like they go to the doctors and grocery stores, probably 20, 25 a week.
For the viewing audience, he said 20 to 25 per week.
So-
Agree with this.
Becca and Justin, I know one of the things, when I was previously on the board there, and we talked about, when this was originally presented, and I understand the statistics and the wait time and all that, when we talk about that connection to Baptist, what would be, would there be an option otherwise, be it not Baptist, because I know that's a little bit, distance-wise, a little bit different, but to another connection, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I don't know what the number would be, but there at JFK and North Hills where the Kroger shopping center is, to where people can get on the regular bus system.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say this. I would think ultimately the simulation would show the same results. Anything outside that zone is going to degrade the service.
But that's going to be, I mean, that's going to be to the edge of the zone anyway.
Kyle, are you trying to take away our sales tax? What?
I did think of that, but I'm also thinking about the connection to the people that need to go to Louisville.
It is technically on the edge, but, you know, I've driven through North Little Rock on JFK to Sherwood multiple times throughout my life, and it is one of the most congested areas, especially during peak travel time. So, you know, we could probably run that simulation again, but I don't think you're going to see anything increase significantly to get to that metric that you're trying to get to, which is 98, 90, 99%. However, you know, there is an option if demand is low, and you can see on this screen, or at least the other screen, if demand is low and you're hovering around 48 daily trips a day, you could still maintain great service with 2 vehicles with a connection. But we don't know what that demand is. And so we need time to know what that demand is. Otherwise, you have the chance of rolling out service that no one's going to use. And then you're paying for something that is ultimately worthless. So I think that's something we can revisit in 6 months, as I was discussing, you know, once we see what ridership's like. But at the beginning, I think we need to hold off on that connection to North Little Rock.
So my question is kind of going the other way. So if we launch the service and y'all go and promote it, and say if we're up at the 138 rides, would we have to wait a whole year to try to implement?
It's probably six months to get a vehicle in now. Supply chain's eased up a little bit, a couple months to retrofit them and recruit. So you're probably still talking 8-9 months to get those rolling, which again, As we're looking at that ridership, we can identify whether or not, if you're getting 138 trips, a day, this city council needs to make the determination whether or not they want to invest in public transit by moving to 4 vehicles.
Because I
it's
agree,
clear
I
the
hadn't heard
residents
anything
would
about
want
it. Yeah, I hadn't heard people complain about it, but I wonder, is it because it wasn't
Right.
there? So I wonder, if once we start advertising it, are we gonna have a big demand? So
Right. And you would be faced with the same situation Conway's
Yeah.
faced with, right? And we need to immediately act on that like they did.
Yeah, except we don't have 3 colleges.
That-
Mayor, just pulling out the budget for this year, we do have Rock Region still in our budget, but the
Yes,
budget
ma'am.
for 2024 was only $60,000.
Right, so
Just
if,
to help everybody remember that.
right, and so that's what I was doing the calculation on. I'd reached out to Colleen during the
But we are
presentation.
around it.
So
But we
if-
are, excuse me, but we are only, we're halfway, we're what?
It would be May, and so that would therefore be 8 months, which would
Right.
be like 58,000, so we would be okay under
Okay.
the budgeted amount.
You ran the math?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
I
I
was
was,
trying to figure out
Connie,
how many
check your
months we
math.
were.
I was not texting, I was doing math. And
was-
please, go ahead and check the math. It's fine.
Well, I do like the idea, I mean, taking the same or less risk really than what we did, almost 2 years
Less.
ago. I mean, I think, a little disappointed we don't already have something going, but, I mean, we're getting 2 vehicles instead of 1, at really the same cost for year 1.
Yeah.
And I do like that. I think, in my mind, it's worth seeing where it goes. I mean, no more risk than we were at 2 years ago.
All right, I make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
Hold on just a second, and then I'll come right back to you. So make sure that you specify the number of vehicles, because we have that blank in there, that the council hereby approves the substitute agreement which proposes blank vehicles. So on your motion, if you'll please include that.
All right, I make a motion that we adopt the resolution for 2 vehicles for Rock Region Metro.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brooks for the 2 vehicles, and we have a second by Councilmember Broderick. Roll call.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders. Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas. Williams.
Aye.
The motion to adopt passes unanimously.
Thank you, city council members.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I could please have our finance director come forward. We have a resolution approving payment of an invoice from North Little Rock Wastewater Utility and for other purposes, and also if Scott Greenwood could come up in case there are any questions on this. To give you a little bit of a... Yes, I just did read it, yes. Do you want to go ahead and give the background of this?
Sure, Mayor, council members. Brief background on this. Scott may be able to say more than I can, but this is a remaining invoice related to 5 Mile Creek repair. I think there were 4 invoices that were previously paid last year, and we received this one, and it's the final invoice. Last month, we did a budget amendment, kind of moving some funds in between the wastewater utility and the 1% sewer sales tax. And so this will be paid out of the wastewater fund.
So this money was already allocated, it's just moving it from last year to this year?
It was not, because during the budget process in 2023, I was unaware that this was a pending invoice.
The explanation I received was that the invoice had been sent to Richard Penn. It was not turned over, and then when an audit was done from North Little Rock wastewater, they discovered this outstanding bill. And so,
Because their finance director had retired, and so I think there was a little bit of a,
Fell through the crack, in other
Yeah.
words.
yes, ma'am.
But when you went back, it totals up to what we originally agreed to? Is
Yes.
yes.
This is not, okay, so piggyback on her question, so Scott and Colleen, this is not This is the same repair that occurred along Warden Road, right?
Yes, it's the same way.
The same thing, and just the last bill came in?
Yes. It just filled in the cracks, and when North Little Rock called it, they called me, and here we are.
And it's been how many years since this kind of thing has happened before? I just want to know how often we're going to have to do this.
Wait a minute, for this?
Yeah.
This is a one-time thing.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
In our lifetime, one time, okay.
Yes.
And so are you saying the 1% that we increased is where this money's gonna come from? I mean, where is this coming from since it wasn't budgeted? Where are we pulling it from?
So what we did is, we had money remaining in our, the 1% sewer sales tax, but that can only be used for capital improvements. And so we moved some budgeted items that we had budgeted in the wastewater fund over to that 1% sales tax, like the bar screen. I
Grit
think,
chamber.
and grit chamber. And so that, then we adjusted the line repair in the wastewater fund. So we'll be paying this invoice out of the wastewater fund. So it was just kind of moving some budgeted items.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lilly and a second by Councilmember Thomas. Roll call.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Next up, we have a resolution amending the 2023 general fund budget, Resolution 1-2023, the 2023 street fund budget, Resolution 2-2023, and the 2023 wastewater utility fund budget, Resolution 3-2023, and the 2023 advertising and promotion commission budget, Resolution 33-2022.
Mayor, council members, this is an annual resolution that you see that I believe has just been referred to as the cleanup budget. So this is what looks at the end of the year of 2023. And we look at invoices that were paid through the end of February of 2024 and accrue those back to the prior year if they're related for the prior year. And then any individual line that was over budget, we adjust that line for budget purposes. And so that's just what this is showing, is an accounting of if there's a certain line that was over, we're adjusting that line for budget purposes. And so that's
Just our standard cleanup budget.
yes,
No new monies are being spent, bottom line.
correct, yes, it's
That's the most
just
important
budgetary,
thing.
yes.
I called Colleen about this today, because I said, wait a minute, this is $2 million, but it's,
Is it always, I mean, historically, it's been this much for the general budget, the
Yes.
cleanup?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I think that the payroll that was paid in January is important to tell the council.
Yes, so we also, we look at, you have to accrue back if you pay payroll, in the current year that's related to the prior year. And so, for example, we had a payday on January 5th, and that was for 2 full weeks of 2023. So we have to look at all of those salary amounts and also, make those related to the prior year, so.
And I know like under A&P, I had to call Colleen because something got posted to the wrong account, and we had to clean all that up. Isn't that correct, Diana? Do you want me to call you up to have you explain that?
She'll shoot you for sure this week.
I can answer that. I remember that one.
I know,
That's
but
correct.
she told me I was not to call her up here tonight, so.
She left.
Yeah, she left the building, no. But anyway, so it does happen, so I understand that sometimes things, you don't catch it till after,
Right.
when you get the reports in.
Well,
so.
yes, we're continuously, getting invoices too throughout the first couple months of the beginning of the year, so.
What's the pleasure of the council? Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Brooks and a second by Councilmember Lilly to adopt the resolution. Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
A resolution approving the purchase of certain real property in conjunction with the Jacksonville-Cato Road project.
I have questions here.
Yes, could I please have Lon and Finley please come up in case there are questions? Thank you.
Is this simply a right-of-way acquisition?
No, it's the entire property, their house, everything.
Okay.
Is this to straighten that big curve out right there?
Come on up, guys.
Lawn. And I know exactly what this property is. Is that because that's that big curve, is that going to straighten that out on that Cato?
That's that first curve.
Yep, I know.
Right past the church. And it's gonna have a roundabout in it. So we're looking to take 2 houses and 1 piece of property.
And what is this one?
5 pieces
What
of
is this
property.
one right here?
This one is 8219. It's a little greenhouse.
The greenhouse on .27 acres, more or less, so it's on a quarter acre lot.
19,
Right.
Okay,
Very small.
all right.
Jacksonville, Cato.
We already bought a couple of those houses, I thought, several years ago.
That's in a different area.
Oh, the next curve.
That's on the first curve, depending upon where you,
Phase 1, which is further out.
We bought those, I believe, for floodplain mitigation.
through
I think
FEMA.
that's what it
Yes.
was.
You're
That's
talking
right.
about the White House there on the left, as you're going, as you make that curve right
Yes.
there on the left,
Yes.
that's White House.
Right here,
Gotcha.
this right here, 8219.
Yeah, that's,
No, it
that's,
just-
we did that in,
This one does, when we're looking at buying right now.
we bought this a couple.
One of the things that we've been doing, Councilmember Broderick, I remember when I was on council and you brought this up, we spent a ungodly amount of money on O.R. Colwyn. Yes.
I think y'all girls are on the same page.
Yes, so we found a independent contractor who came highly recommended from North Little Rock. We'll be spending a fraction of the cost, and because I think, as you pointed out, you would rather the money go to the homeowner versus a corporation. So you were listened to.
Talk about my question.
Yes, okay, and Councilmember Williams had called and asked a question today, which is about appraisal price versus purchasing price. And by law, and we have to follow federal guidelines, when you are having to force someone out of their homes, then you have to be able to compensate them for moving expensive, relocation, and so forth. They've got to be able to have enough money to be able to get something else that's in what's considered a safe area. If you'd like to kind of speak to,
There's also Arkansas RDOT regulation to relocate people and pay for the relocation.
We didn't condemn it, we just are
right.
encouraging a purchase.
If we
Yes.
condemned, we would be spending a whole lot more
Exactly.
than this. And
So $55,000 is not the fair market value of this property. $55,000 includes costs for relocation and things of that nature.
Yes.
The appraisal came in at $40,000,
Okay,
and the $15,000 is for the relocation.
it's for the relocation.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So the appraisal came in at 40,000?
$40,000.
Pages didn't have it near that high.
Zillow had it estimated at $67,000, and Realtor.com had it for $96,000.
oh, wow.
And the first.
How about that Realtor.com?
Don't buy through them.
They were working on a commission.
Yeah, clearly.
We
Yes.
started with an estimate of $75,000, and we've worked it down to 55 now.
Good information, Lon, thank you. Move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion for adoption by Councilmember Williams and a second by Councilmember Sanders. Roll call, please. Thank you, guys.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
The motion to adopt passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next up, we have an ordinance amending existing regulations regarding fireworks within the city of Sherwood, repealing conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is sponsored by Councilmember Williams, and I will be turning it over to you.
Thank you very much.
And the chief is making his way up.
Chief is head over. I just want to, obviously, we all know as a council that we can't discuss things unless we're sitting in this room, correct? Just wanted to give you a backstory on this a little bit. Chief called me a week or two ago and said that he wanted to have a discussion about the fireworks ordinance because in his 28 years' experience here, there was some mismatches of stuff, and I'll let him tell that story. And he would like to see some changes, or at least propose or have a discussion. And so I went and sat with him and talked to him about it, and he showed me this proposal that has been tweaked. It's similar to one in Siloam Springs that he has met with different police chiefs about, because our current is no tolerance at all, but there's not a person sitting around this table that doesn't know that fireworks go off on the 4th of July in your neighborhood. And so I told him I'd be proud. I mean, when you just respect a supervisor and they do a good job for the city and they ask you to do something, you respect them by saying, yes, I'll put my name on that, which I'm proud to do. So I'd like to give him a chance to tell the co-counsel what he told me in that meeting as to why this is something that he would like to see us consider. And this is something, he also told me I thought was real poignant about, discuss it today, look about it for next month, which would be April and May, and then if it is changed and this happens, then we have 2 months to have things in place before the 4th of July. So I think his timing, his thought to look this way, I think is to be commended. So Chief, it's all yours.
And council, once the chief finishes, we have a couple of people who'd like to speak on this, so hold your questions until after. Please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Council Member Williams, for putting this up here. And before anybody starts throwing rocks, throw them at me. She was doing me a favor by sponsoring the ordinance. So here's my purpose for the ordinance. So anybody that's lived in this city for any amount of time knows that on the 4th of July, it is, for a city that has an ordinance that says no fireworks, it's not even close to that. And I've had this conversation with several of you in the past, and I had this conversation with the past mayor, and I've had this conversation with our new mayor, and I have a concern as the chief of police that we have an ordinance on the books that we are not enforcing. And the reason we're not enforcing it is because it's almost impossible to enforce it the way it's written. And I give the example of this. If Councilmember Williams calls and says, they're shooting fireworks across the street from my house right now, and I'm here at the police department, and I drive to her house to put a stop to the fireworks that are being fired off in front of her house, in order for me to do that, I have to do one of two things. I either have to pass 300 people violating the same ordinance to get to her house, or I get there and I address that person and they tell me, well, what about them, and what about them, and what about them, and what about what I hear right now? I don't have enough officers on the street to really, I think that there's this assumption that we go out and we give you a warning to stop shooting fireworks, and then we'll come back and we will write you a ticket if you don't listen to the warning. The problem is we don't have the manpower to do that, and it's just, when I say thousands of violations going on at the same time, it's just unenforceable. And that's, when I say unenforceable, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not advocating that we open the city up for fireworks displays on the 4th of July or the 3rd or the 5th. That's not what I'm advocating. I made phone calls to several other cities in the area, and what I found out was I asked them a simple question. Do you have an ordinance preventing the firing of fireworks? And if so, and I can tell you, without fail, all of them have some sort of ordinance. And then the second question I asked was, do you enforce it? How many citations did you write? Just out of curiosity, does anybody have any idea I called White County, Lonoke County, Pulaski County, Saline County. Do you have any idea how many citations were written last year for fireworks violations?
Not many.
One, and it was written in Sherwood.
Good job.
One citation. Last year, how many? One. And then all of those counties. Well, yeah, and we wrote it. Again, we wrote one the year before last, and we wrote one last year. And here's my point. I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you that what we have now, and this was my thought process I wanted to do this. It's too late in July to have this conversation. And so this is an ordinance that was passed in 2002. None of the people that are in here right now voted for that ordinance. And I worked here, but I wasn't the chief of police in 2002 by no means. Matter of fact, I was out there chasing fireworks calls in 2002. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give y'all an opportunity to look at this ordinance. The ordinance that was written, I can tell you this was a culmination of looking at a lot of different ordinances and finding something that the chiefs that I have talked to that their cities have gone to these limited hours of opportunity to shoot them off, they say that they've had success. I don't know. I don't live in those communities, and I don't know if that's a true statement or not. And maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. But I wanted the ordinance to be presented to where y'all have an opportunity to talk about it. I know this is the setting for you to do it. So I'm not advocating. If it was up to me, that we wouldn't shoot them off at all. I'd go to bed early. But at the end of the day, we all know they're doing it, and I just want us to kind of figure out what we want out of this ordinance, and all I ask is you give me something that we can enforce, that we can try to give people some relief. So.
And just to kind of piggyback on some things that Chief said, this ordinance, as I said, was a change, and if you can look at it, let me just call your attention to a couple of things. Under item 1, I think some of the cities had for a week or whatever. We just put a couple of days there, 2, 3, and 4. But we actually had just July 4th at one time. So that was one of the things. And it had it from like noon till 10 p.m. And we said, no. If we're going to have parents have to supervise, they're not even home till 5. But in our discussion after, even since we sent this out, or he sent this out to the council for the thing, 5 p.m. may be too early. It's not even dark. Maybe it's 7 to 9 or something. But have a limited amount of time if that happens. And obviously, number 4 is a typo that all three, Steve and I and Chief, we were saying that people under 16 need to have adult supervision so that they're not out there being stupid. But maybe 18, I don't know, 21 may be stupid sometimes, I don't know. But whatever the minor is, we need to make sure that they're protected to know the rules. So those were some of the things that we looked at, and actually put the fine in there. Those fines were comparable to other fines.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the one last thing that I would like to add to that is, and this is a concern that I have, is just so everybody understands the burden of proof on us in even writing a citation for this, I have to see you do it, okay? It's a city ordinance. I have to see you do it. And so what we don't have in our existing ordinance is a possession, something that speaks of possession. You can't sell them, but it doesn't say you can't possess them. And so in order for us to be able to enforce this, we really need to put some wording in there that talks about possession of, especially if we're going to say no fireworks at all, then possession of needs to be in there, because that way we can enforce that. Even if we don't catch you firing them off, just being in possession, we can cite you for that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then as far as so if we, when we see the Like I say, you know, I don't know what the answer is. I just wanted to have this conversation now and not in July because, you know, I get phone calls, and I know y'all do too, about, you know, why, there's an ordinance, why aren't you enforcing it? Well, I mean, it's just, it's more difficult than one would think. So, I'll be willing to answer any question. I know some other people want to speak.
I do, and also one thing that got added that's in the last narrative part of it, I thought was very critical, because we know what Arkansas in July temperatures are like, and the whole idea about if there's a burn ban, that means even this would be canceled. And if there are firework displays that are going on, that they would be canceled by the mayor, the fire chief, or by whatever the fire ordinance is that comes out that puts a burn ban in the community, because for that purpose. So that was added. That's the other thing I could think of. Okay.
We've got a couple of people that have signed up to speak. If you could make your way up. Leslie Durbin is the first one, followed by Meredith Townsend and Joffrey Phillips. Yes, ma'am. If you'll give your name and address, and every person has 3 minutes, correct?
That's right.
All right.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name's Leslie Durbin. I live at 6700 Austin Harbor Loop. Been there since 2006. I was glad to hear the chief speak on this because, yeah, you know, with all due respect, I know y'all can't enforce what we have, and there's not enough of you. My issue when I read it, the initial one, is extending it more days than the 4th of July. I like the time limit. I do like the possession. Maybe something could be included that only on the 4th of July. I think 16 is too young. We've had a neighborhood kid that is under 18 that went around with firecrackers and were stuffing them in people's tailpipes and lighting them. So, yeah, there was no parental supervision. So I would like to see it just one night, 4th of July. The bottle rockets, that's the problem I've had in the past because we have had burn bans and they're still shooting them off and they're actually hitting people, you know, houses over and landing on roofs and yards and things like that. So I don't want my home to go up in flames or someone to get burned because as y'all know that there's increased visits to the hospitals from injuries from fireworks, even the little sparklers. So I would like to limit it to 4th of July night, you know, stopping at 10 p.m. Yes, I have to get up early. I don't want my dog, I don't want to have to drug my dog for more than one night because he can't handle the loud noise. And I know there's a lot of people with PTSD, and you know, I think we need to think of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Meredith Townsend, please state your name and address.
Good evening. I'm Meredith Townsend, 6849 Austin Harbor Loop. I am Leslie's neighbor, so there's really not much more that I can add. Personally, I'm not a fan of shooting fireworks off in city limits. It is a personal thing. If you know much about my personal story, anything that comes close to a big loud bang or a gunshot gives me extreme anxiety. However, I will second what Leslie has said. We do have, you know, some kids in the neighborhood that have caused some issues over the past few years, so I would like to see that age limit. If you all do decide, you know, I understand that this is not, you know, you're not going to make a decision based on what Meredith wants, but what's best for the city. But if that could be raised up to an actual adult age versus any children, I would appreciate that, as well as shortening the number of days that are currently written in the ordinance now. Thank you. And Mr. Cobb, you can take me off the list for the next item.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. And Joffrey Phillips, please state your address.
Mayor and council members, my name is Jeffrey Phillips, and I live at 1010 Country Club in Ward 3. I would like to speak in opposition to this ordinance dealing with the use of fireworks in the city. By way of background, I grew up in an unincorporated area of Faulkner County where bottle rocket wars were a cherished, if ill-advised, tradition. I say this to underscore that I personally enjoy fireworks and I don't mind percussive entertainment. The topic at hand became of particular importance to me in late December of 2019 when, as many parents have, my wife and I struggled through exhaustion to keep our newborn fed, changed, and asleep. For several nights around the New Year holiday and particularly around July 4th, we have struggled with that. Our particular challenge is exasperated by giant window-rattling explosions detonating just a street over from our home. As if being an exhausted parent of a 2-month-old child wasn't difficult enough, imagine dealing with a few less hours of sleep while trying to calm a distressed newborn. I took a walk that first night that it happened around the neighborhood and was astounded at the scale of the fireworks being exploded down the street. And these weren't just garden variety fireworks, these were the types that are legal in 38 states fireworks, the big stuff, rattling our windows. If you've been a new parent, you understand the value of sleep and the difficulty of calming a terrorized child in the night. And pet owners, like we heard, appreciate the sleep disruption which can occur from these things. This all sounds dramatic, but in that moment and in every New Year's and Independence Day since, I've been exhausted and I just want my kid to sleep. I just want to have get some sleep. We've tried white noise machines and heavier curtains. We've tried earplugs. There's just nothing that you can do to protect yourself when there's a bombardment going on outside. I completely agree that we should have a possession clause, and I don't want our police to be frustrated by an unenforceable ordinance. As you consider this amendment, please understand that these ordinances, or this one, even as it exists, it does prevent people from doing things. I think that a majority of the people in the city are law-abiding, and they see this, and they don't want to break rules, right? But I don't think that we should have, I don't think that unenforceable ordinances or difficulty, a whole bunch of people breaking a rule doesn't mean it's a bad rule, right? We don't get rid of speed limits because people speed, and we don't get rid of leash laws because, we have dogs around the neighborhood or whatever. Even if they're difficult to enforce, we have to go after some of these things.
You have 30 seconds, sir.
Oh. So on my drive home tonight, I'll pass by a mural proclaiming Sherwood to be close to the action and far from the noise. Let's not amend this to be close to the action and the noise. Thank you.
Chief Sawyer, did you want to speak on this?
Give that to, oh, wait. Oh, she said take her off the baby boxes,
Yes.
so that's in her mind.
Okay.
Good evening, Chief Sawyer, Fire Department, Sherwood. My board is against this. Our fear is more along the lines of increased rescue responses that we might have. Yes, we do have an ordinance. It is illegal, but it does open up a time period to where, we all know we set an age on it. It may not be. We all know that kids are going to be kids, but my board, and I we're concerned that it may increase our EMS portion of our calls. Right now, our EMS portion is right at 74% of our calls. So I'd hate to, cause something to raise that. So I'm with Chief Hager. We do need something to be able to enforce. We now have fire marshals that are special law enforcement positions. We will be working with PD during this, but as far as the EMS portion of it, we would like to kind of tighten it up as much as we could just to save future incidences to our residents.
Thank you. You didn't sign
Speak to the board, is all.
up.
That's up to the council and the mayor.
At council,
It won't follow, I just want to.
council, are you all willing to suspend the rules to allow a fire commissioner to speak?
I won't take long.
Sure.
What's the pleasure of the
Make that
council?
motion.
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lilly and a second by Councilmember Harmon to allow Mike Anderson, who's Commissioner of the Fire Department, speak without having signed in. What's the pleasure of the council?
Do we need to do a roll call vote?
Yes,
Can
please.
we whip them with a wet noodle too?
He knows the rules.
Go ahead.
Brooks,
Hold on,
Wait,
hold
we
on
have
just
to
a
do a roll
second.
call.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lily.
Aye.
Sanders. Wade. Harmon. Broderick. Thomas. Williams.
Aye.
The floor is yours.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I hadn't planned on doing this, but the thought came to me as we were talking about who allows it and who doesn't allow it. And North Little Rock and Little Rock, North Little Rock, all of them have, band laws. Banned. So you don't want all of those people coming to Sherwood to set off your fireworks. And that's a concern also that we have. And I don't, I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, if you'd like to come back up. Council members, would you like to address questions to the chief and Council Member Williams about the ordinance?
Chief, I think that what he just brought up is not, you're saying that that's not going to be a concern because North Little Rock, Jacksonville, they're not enforcing any more than we're enforcing, in fact, less, because the only 2 tickets given in this area were given by us. So
I actually talked to one of the majors over at Little Rock today, and I asked him what their enforcement policy was on it, and he said that their SID is assigned every year to a fireworks detail that is basically targeting bootleg sales. He said, we don't enforce the firing off of fireworks. And let me say this. I'm not, and I hope nobody thinks that I'm advocating here that I want us to be the fireworks epicenter of Pulaski County. That is not at all what I want. I want us to, this is a 22-year-old, is that right? Yeah, 22-year-old ordinance that I want us, that nobody that's here right now spoke to back then. We know.
I beg your pardon.
I'm sorry, I forget you were here. But.
That's true, I didn't vote.
But you didn't vote. But I just want us to look at the ordinance. And I mean, we know what we deal with on the 4th. I mean, we all hear it. And my question is if we want to leave it the same, I'm fine with that. But I'm telling you as the chief law enforcement officer of this city, I have trouble reconciling the fact that I see this blatant disregard for an ordinance, and we wrote 1 ticket. And I feel like we need to go out there and aggressively enforce this, but if we're going to do that, I want to make sure y'all are behind us on that. I mean, this is an ordinance that's been on the books for a long time, and it is going to generate, I'm telling you, and you know this, I don't have to tell you this, it's going to generate some heartburn for everybody that's sitting in this room if we aggressively do that, and we will, and I'm fine with doing that. I'm just offering up options, and I just wanted y'all to talk about it. That's it. It doesn't matter to me if we leave it the way it is, if we change some wording, if you give some times. It doesn't matter to me. I just wanted y'all this group of people to have the opportunity to discuss it and let citizens, come back and give us some input on what they want and what their expectation is. But I don't think anybody's expectation is that we just allow it to run rampant like it is now. I think that we have to do something about that, and that's why I wanted to bring it to y'all's attention. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
And one other thing, when this ordinance was written, we actually had a state fire marshal that was under the state police. Our state fire marshal now has been removed under the state police and now falls under Adam. So when you apply for a permit to shoot in the city, it's the new permitting system leaves out a lot that we need. So on the ordinance that was written, I think it's section 5, where what we require is insurance, such things. that would need to be put in a new ordinance to where we can regulate who comes into our city and shoots also.
Chief Hager, I always cry about the same thing, so I really appreciate you bringing this and letting us talk about it, you know, in plenty of time before, you know, June 28th is too late to start
Right.
discussing it, so I really appreciate that. I like this, and I had a retired Sherwood officer ask me about this a couple years ago, and I've had several people, and I think what happens is, like you say, people either do it anyway, or they go, you know, into count just outside on Highway 107, and so as far as fire prevention, it's still happening, it's just outside the city limits, so one thing I'd ask the council to consider, and I'd like your input on the possession piece of it, depending on if it passes or doesn't pass, possession, you know, if it's in a vehicle and you're on your, like, you know, your 16-year-old is going out to just outside city limits, you know, possession as in possession on the street, you know, if that maybe needs to be fleshed out a little bit versus I bought it, I ran home, got my barbecue, and now I'm driving to the county where I can shoot them off.
Yeah.
If you pulled him over for a speeding ticket and he's like, oh, I'm gonna give you a ticket for that too, because you got, you know.
So, yeah, so I think when you talk about possession, you talk about packaging. So if it's, you know, if you buy fireworks that are still in their packaging, you know, and you're in a vehicle transporting from point A to point B, that's one thing. If you're standing out in the street in the cul-de-sac in front of your house and they're out of the original packaging, even though I didn't see you fire them, I know what you're about to do or what you have been doing. And so what a lot of times what happens is we'll get there and there's debris from where they've been firing them, but we didn't physically see them do it. And that's.
This is my other question for you. By putting an age, are we creating a new problem? I mean, do you have to determine, was that child 15 or 16 or 17? I mean, because a lot of kids don't have a driver's license, so are we putting a burden for you to decide how old they are?
Well, I mean, we can identify them by age, I mean, by ID. And I'll tell you where the 16 came from. This is how much deep thought went into that, is when me and Ms. Williams were talking about that, you know, the discussion was exactly what you said a while ago. If they're 16 years old and they can drive, then it's reasonable that they would be able to go drive somewhere and shoot them off. That was the thought behind 16. But again, I don't think she or I, either one, were just. I just wanted to get something to generate a conversation for y'all. So
I appreciate that.
And in this, I think two of the patrons mentioned that the bottle rockets, and those are excluded completely in this
Yes,
ordinance. Anything that projectiles.
And
cannot be
they are
anything
currently too, correct? Bottle
Say that again?
rockets
Everything.
are currently
everything
excluded.
is right now,
Everything.
right.
They're excluded.
Well, that's true,
Yeah.
but yes.
Well, that's kind of what I was gonna,
Point taken, yes.
that's kind of what I was
Should
gonna.
be, but you know.
You
it's
know, I
right.
think that's something that people who have a serious problem with fireworks and have a serious problem especially with bottle rockets, and, you know, I'm a veteran of many bottle rocket wars here in Sherwood and before that in Sylvan Hills, and loved them myself, but I understand why they bother people. That's something that needs to be taken to our state representatives and stuff. If bottle rockets weren't sold in Arkansas, we wouldn't have a problem with bottle rockets in Arkansas. And they don't have to be sold. We used to get M80s. Remember those big M80s that we didn't blow mailboxes open with them. We blew mailboxes up with them.
And I'm sure this was before the ban, correct, Councilmember Harmon?
And
Yes.
like
then
a quarter
I don't know,
stick of
20 years
dynamite.
ago.
Yeah, then they stopped selling it.
Hey, Chief, is there
Yeah, I
like
think
statute
so. I think so.
limitations and all this
But
stuff?
they outlawed the sale of those, and you can't get them anymore. And if they outlawed the sale of bottle rockets, that wouldn't be an issue anymore. The only thing that in here, the thing in here that I noticed that I thought might be an issue is, and somebody mentioned that spoke, said they really liked the time, but first off, I think omitting New Year's Eve might be a mistake, because you're going to have the people who shoot on New Year's Eve now are going to shoot on New Year's Eve anyway. And the time going till 10 o'clock, you know, people shoot probably up till midnight easily now, and they're gonna continue to shoot up till midnight. So you're from 10 to midnight at least, you're gonna have the same problem that you have now. Because they're not gonna stop at 10 o'clock, oh crap, it's 10 o'clock, man, but clean all this crap up. You know, they're gonna be out there shooting that stuff till midnight at least, because that's what they do now. But then it gets pretty quiet. It starts quieting down after midnight quite a bit. And on New Year's Eve, it doesn't start till midnight, because that's when, you know, the ball drops, everybody goes out and fires fireworks for 30 minutes or so. And I think not including New Year's Eve in here, it's a mistake, because if we're going to legalize the firing of any fireworks in Sherwood, then there are 2 times a year that they're sold for shooting, and they're sold right outside our city limit line. And that's for July the 4th and for New Year's Eve. And it's gonna confuse people if you go up and give them tickets and fine them and everything on New Year's Eve when you didn't do anything to them on July the 4th.
I think Charlie brings up a good point, or Councilmember Herman does, on the New Year's Eve. On that. But just an observation, because I had some phone calls, I'm sure it's probably many of you have,
I
that.
had one.
You said one?
My name's on it, and I only had one.
Okay. I'll send them your way. You know, it's important to remember that what's been happening is going to continue to happen. Passing this is not going to keep the rogue actors, so to speak, from doing past 10 o'clock or anything else. But this is going to give a little bit more teeth to something that the law enforcement community can get into. If we do set it at 10 p.m. and they are still shooting, at least then there is a little bit more, you know, that can be done. And some of the folks tonight that spoke and some of the emails and phone calls, and I totally understand various reasons why people are against it. But most of those folks, they would be happy if there was 0 period, ever, anytime. And that's never going to happen either. So I appreciate you bringing something controversial to the council, Chief, to talk about. But it is, the conversation's been good, and I think there probably does need to be an update of some sort made.
You know, one thing I thought about too is, you know, when I read this, just excluding taking the mortars out and the bottle rockets and all those things that really make a lot of racket, what do you have left? I mean, it's still loud, but it's not those ones that rock your windows and stuff like that.
You're just wanting the nice displays.
Yeah, stuff, you know,
The cats, there's some little cat thing.
yeah.
That's what they're called.
But
Firecrackers, black cats.
this gives, what I like about it, it gives the police, if somebody is shooting bottle rockets or mortars, you know, they can find them. You know, gives them a little bit more teeth, like you said, I like that. But when you take those big things out like that, you really don't have not much but sparklers and black cats, fireworks, whatever. I mean, you know, simple things.
Yeah, so like I say, you know, my intent, and again, I appreciate Councilmember Williams for being willing to do that, to bring it to y'all. My intent was to have y'all read it once and then hopefully get feedback from your constituents and then offer up any suggestions for modifications or say that, you know what, after looking at all of this, we want to just stick with what we've got. And I'm fine with that. But in my position, I have to enforce this, okay? And I just want to give y'all the option of, you know, looking at if we want to get it, because to me, the ordinance is the warning. I don't think us giving warnings is effective, and we hear it every year. We know what it is. So, and I think I'm not doing my job if I don't enforce it. So, that's the intent. And then, you know, like I said, I wanted to give y'all plenty of time to look at it, and if there's any modifications y'all want to make or change, I'm just offering up ideas, and then, but obviously, my job is to.
You can't put the cat back in the carrier now, Chief.
Okay, I'm a cat owner. Can we not bring up cats and fireworks in the same
But
conversation?
the name of them is the black cat. Steve, point of order here on this. So if council members have some editing that they'd like to do to this, should they send it to you or can they send it to me?
Or to the chief.
or the chief?
Well,
What's the
I don't
the
want
best
to be a
procedure?
point of contact, but I'm going to sit down with the chief and probably you
Okay.
to discuss. I made some notes already about
Me
some
too.
things that you might want to tweak. And,
I just want our council to have permission to send it to us without being any violation of
just don't send
meeting.
it to each other. Let's just not have a meeting.
So send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Clerk,
you're
please.
gonna get with Chief
So send it
Sawyer
to him.
about the section 5
Yeah.
wording, so.
You can never send it to a council.
Send everything to Steve, and then we'll get together.
Yeah, and then we'll coordinate. Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for your input, which is
Thank
what
y'all.
the goal was.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have a resolution by the City of Sherwood, Arkansas, authorizing entry into an agreement for the installation of a newborn safety device at Station 1 of the Sherwood Fire Protection District 5 pursuant to Arkansas law. I've got a quick PowerPoint about this. Safe Haven baby boxes. This is, thank you to Tom Brooks and Marina for going out. Tom brought me these pictures today. If you can go to the next slide. This is Jacksonville's a baby box. This is the outside of it. You can see all the signage. These are consistent among all Safe Haven baby boxes, and this is what it looks like at on the inside of the fire station. The Arkansas Safe Haven law allows a parent to bring a child 30 days or younger to an employee at any hospital emergency room, law enforcement agency, fire department that's staffed 24 hours a day, or a designated newborn safety device, often called a baby box, location anonymously and without facing prosecution for endangerment or abandoning a child. As long as the baby has not been abused or neglected, the parent may relinquish the child without fear of arrest or prosecution. The baby boxes are a state-of-the-art device. They are climate-controlled. It legally permits a mother in crisis to safely, securely, and anonymously surrender her unwanted newborn. Prior to the box being activated, tests occur at every stage of design, development, and deployment. It features multiple alarms in the device, which alert first responders. The box's alarms are tested weekly to ensure that there are no failures. None of these alarm systems have ever failed. The staff responsible for the box is trained on how the device operates. So how does this work? The parent opens the door to the baby box, which triggers a silent alarm, and a call goes to 911 dispatch. The infant is placed in the climate control medical bassinet. A sensor located on the inside of the box triggers a second 911 dispatch call. The exterior door automatically locks upon placement of the newborn. Within 5 minutes, the infant will be rescued by a first responder. An interior door allows a first responder to secure the surrendered newborn from inside the designated building. The infant will be quickly taken to the hospital for medical evaluation. In our case, it would be Arkansas Children's Hospital, and this is what's consistently done because they are indeed the experts. The infant enters into a foster adoption process with DHS where they are placed in a safe and healthy home environment. Couple of questions, frequently asked questions. How long has this program been around? The first box was installed in November of 2016. Baby boxes are currently in 15 states where there are 209 boxes nationwide, 23 in the state of Arkansas. What communities in central Arkansas have safe haven boxes? There's 2 in Benton and fire stations, 2 in Conway fire stations, 1 in the Mayflower Police Station, 1 in the Maumelle Fire Station, 1 in the Jacksonville Fire Station, and 1 in the Cabot Fire Station. How many babies have been surrendered by the Safe Haven baby boxes so far to date? Nationwide, 43 babies. In central Arkansas, 5 babies so far have already been surrendered since its implementation in 2020. Benton is one of 2 communities, Benton, Arkansas, actually leading the nation in surrenders. They have had 3 babies surrendered. Maumelle has had 1 and Conway has had 1, and all were surrendered at fire stations. Can someone take another person's baby and turn the baby in as an abandoned baby? When the baby is given up, the Division of Children and Family Services shall use the Missing Persons Information Clearinghouse and any other national and state resources to determine whether or not the child is a missing child. They are very careful. What happens to the baby once it's dropped off? As I've mentioned before, medical care is given if needed, and then the baby is turned over in the hospital to the Department of Human Services Division of Child and Family Services. I reached out to some of our sister cities to find out from the mayors what their opinions are of it. So Mayor Tom Farmer of Benton. Benton has very similar demographics to Sherwood. They've had the most turned over, and they are closest to our population. He said the safe haven baby boxes have been nothing but positive for our community. Our first one went into Station 3 in 2020. The box was used that year with the first baby surrendered. The baby is now a toddler, by the way. We have had 2 babies surrendered in 2023. The last baby in 2023 came with a note from the mom that said she could no longer care for the baby and drove in, and he couldn't remember if it was El Dorado or Monticello. But the note said that she knew we would take good care of her baby. She passed by 4 locations to take it there, including 2 hospitals where the baby could have been dropped off. I asked him, what does firefighters think about this? And he said, those big guys love it and melt like butter when they get to be the first ones to hold that baby. He also went on to say that they will never build a future fire station without a safe haven baby box. It's that important to the community. I reached out to Mayor Kincaid. They've had one for approximately a year now. They said they put their safe haven baby box in one of their fire stations in 2023. He said he is proud that their community has this option for women. He said theirs has not been utilized yet, but that it was worth every penny and that it is all about saving a life. He went on to express how proud the community is to have it. So why now? Why in Sherwood? Since I have been in office, 2 infants have died needlessly and tragically. I started researching and learned about the safe haven baby boxes around a year ago. I reached out to other mayors. I've spoke countless times to this organization. We discussed many times about best practices, how to pick a location. A lot went into this. And then the second death happened. I don't know if this would have prevented either of those infants' deaths, but with the changes that have occurred in the laws, all the predictions are that incidences of abandonment and infants are only going to increase with more births of unwanted babies. I think that with good consciousness, all we can do is try to offer an option that would provide women anonymity, of which we do not currently have as an option in Sherwood. I think if we can save just one life, I mean, what an incredible blessing that this could be for our community. And if you guys have any questions about this, I'd be happy to answer at this time.
No, I think it's a great thing. I called Greg Thompson, who is the director of MEMS, about this, and he said that they actually transport the babies. If it's in their service area, that's what they do. And he said, from what he understood, that North Little Rock, that he was in a meeting with Terry Hartwick, and that they're building a new fire station, and they'll be putting a safe haven baby box in that new fire station. So they'll be on the list also. So I think they value this as well. So I think it's a I think it's something we need to put our name on this list also.
As the father of an adopted child, I'll tell you, I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing that, that's needed, and the level of anonymity this provides mothers is more than what you get. Our safe haven law restricts organizations from charging a mother with harm to the child, and supposedly guarantees anonymity. But if you think about it, to give a child up at a hospital, she has to drive through an entryway covered by cameras, park in a parking lot covered by cameras, walk up to entryways that she's videoed by a dozen different cameras before she gets even to a doorway where she can hand the baby off, and she has to hand the baby off to someone who's going to ask questions. And generally, she has to go through a entryway where there's a guard, an armed guard, before she can do that.
With
So
maybe
questions
metal
are asked.
detectors even.
Metal detectors, yeah. So anonymity in a situation where there's a hospital is questionable, whereas this provides the level of anonymity that I think makes it, provided they know it's there, more likely to be able to give that baby up with less concern. And I just want to make sure that we let people know it's out there. But I think this is just a wonderful idea, absolutely a wonderful idea.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Understand that the fire station at Lantrum has cameras. Are those coming? What's going to be the configuration, I
Right,
guess?
so it would go in the area that's parallel, the short side of the building that is parallel to Lantrop Road. There's one camera right there that can be moved to the other side of the building so that it's not, they will not allow a safe haven baby box to be placed where there is a camera, because that's part of this. That's a good location in that it's an area where it's a kind of you can drop off and quickly disappear. You can jump on Keel, you can jump on 67, 167. And so that's part of the recommendation, is that you want something that's got quick access. You wouldn't want to put this like at our new fire station that's buried more internally in the city and,
Hard to find.
you know. Yes.
The times I've been there, I go through where the bays are, and that's metal. So is that side brick, or is this?
No, and that's, so in that picture of Jacksonville's, they also
There's a
have metal siding.
metal
And that
siding.
was one of the things that I reached out to find out, can they be installed? And they said, oh, yes. In fact, they sent me a whole manual on how it's installed in all, brick and in stucco and in stone and in metal. And they said there's no problem with that at all.
I think that fire station's been there a long, long, long time, and this was installed at a later time.
The one right there by the freeway.
That's right by the freeway, right by the C-130 that's sitting on the freeway.
That fire station.
That has
by-
been
in
there
that
a
fire
long
station, yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Steve, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is there any concern about finding Station 1 on Landtrip? I mean, I'm just asking the question, because it's, okay, we know where it is, but.
Well, I mean, and part of this process comes, they do an education piece as well. And certainly, the media comes out to all of the dedications, and they make sure that information goes out to schools and so
So there's
forth
gonna be
with it.
PR, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Steve, do we have to add something to the contract, since, the firefighters, that's a contracted service, they're not city employees?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Do we have to amend the contract with the fire department? Because this would be having them do something involved in a program that we've never had.
Doing a memorandum of understanding outside of this ordinance, and that language is in the ordinance, or the resolution that the mayor's authorized to reach an agreement. Just so we have a protocol between the city and the fire department, since they're not under the umbrella of the city.
Right.
We want to have a standalone agreement as well.
So something will be added to.
Yes.
Mayor, how would it work? I mean, I'm 100% behind this myself, and the money is not the issue. But I think there probably will be some organizations and possibly individuals that want to donate towards that cost because of the significance of the program. So but they just need to contact
Sure.
the city.
The
if
mayor's
they're
office,
interested in
yeah,
that.
and the ongoing cost, the yearly cost is $500.
Right.
It's very minimal. And I will say, police and, EMS, they're very capable, and if a baby were discovered, as they sometimes are, by a dumpster or what have you, they would be the ones that would be, first there, so.
I'll move for the adoption of the resolution.
I second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lilly and a second by Councilmember Brooks. Roll call.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders. Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Broderick. Thomas. Williams.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to old business.
Are we supposed to do anything with the policy that you sent to us, the FOIA policy? Did we-
We didn't get any comments except I think you and I had a conversation.
Okay.
So it's kind of our belief that maybe the policy as suggested might be okay. There wasn't,
I'm sorry, I have a comment about it. I didn't see it. If you
didn't see it.
I didn't see it emailed to me, so I didn't.
Oh, no, really? Well, I'll make sure that, I'll go back. I thought I double checked it.
Yeah, it was sent out several weeks ago, so.
So do we want to
But
maybe,
that's kind of my point, though, but
I didn't know.
the steps, that was kind of what they talked about originally. You have 3 days to respond. Well, last week I was in Colorado, so both options say the elected official will blah, blah, blah. But are we not going to put a FOIA, they need to use a FOIA link or a FOIA email, because by these options that are offered, we wouldn't have complied with the 3-day.
Well, you remember when the AG was here,
Ryan?
he said that you are going to run into situations. First thing he said, is that FOI never goes on vacation and FOI never goes to sleep.
Right.
But he did say that if somebody's out of pocket, let's say, for instance, and you've got, possibly you have emails on your computer that were on a personal email, that the city is going to have no way of, I think our FOI specialist would then reach out to the requester and say, we've received your request. There may be information that's available on Oliver and X's computer. They're out of town, and we will respond to that when they return.
Right,
Okay, I
and the
was
reason, and I'm sorry not to interrupt you, but the reason why the Attorney General Representative also said that we cannot force them to only put it in a form. Like, they could actually say to you verbally, I doubt they would have, while you're on vacation or whatever. So that's why we were trying to find a way in which we then take that and put it in writing so that they can't say, well, I requested this, but you gave me this, and that's not what I requested. So that's kind of why we went through those steps of, okay, you called up, you requested this, do I have this? Is this exactly what you're asking for?
I guess my question is, will it be advertised to the public? If they want to FOIA something from, Councilmember Broderick, you need to send your request to FOIA@cityofsherwood.net.
I think the conversation was that there will be something on the city's website.
And there is.
Okay, great, because this step 1, elected official will get the information from requester, email them, restate I wouldn't have been in compliance with the 3 days if they sent it to my email versus
Right.
And I understand then the city would say, hey, April, you got this, you're out of town, do you have anything else,
Right.
There would be follow-up steps, but if it was only coming to an elected official city email, it may not be.
Yeah, right. And then you would just, once you got back in town, I'm sorry, I was out of town.
Exactly.
I think
Yes.
that's a good faith explanation. I really do.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, moving on to new business. We have a presentation of economic development report by Josh Alexander. The floor is yours.
Good evening, council. It's been about a year since I gave you guys an economic development update. The last time I was before you giving this type of an update, we were working with Senate Bill 201 to get it passed, reference to wet dry initiative in North Sherwood. We've had some heavy lifts over this past year. We did get Senate Bill 201 passed, and it was turned into Act 671, and that allows Sherwood to petition for a change in the wet-dry status for North Sherwood. We now have the opportunity to break away from the Gray Township. We get one shot at this. This law expires December 31st, 2024. So it is being a resident-led initiative, and they are working. I do not have an update of numbers for you guys, but they are working on it, and I know that it is moving along. Tornado recovery for me occurred from April to June. All my efforts were pretty much dedicated to working with homeowners impacted by the tornado. I served as a liaison between the aid group and the homeowners to provide assistance and expedite a return to normalcy. I will tell you, the greatest thing that we had working in this city was our residents. They worked so hard to get all the debris out to the streets. And because you guys took such quick and decisive action to get us under a debris removal contract, those debris trucks were rolling through our city, and we were getting the debris out so fast that I would have aid organizations call me and say, we can't work in North Little Rock today because we have no place to put debris. Or we can't work in Jacksonville because we have no place to put debris. Where can we go in Sherwood? And so I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for the decisive actions that you took to get that debris moving, because that's why we recovered so much quicker than some of our peers. We also, you guys passed a rezone replat for those impacted by the tornado. So we did have several rezones and replats over the past year that actually have the city more following in line with the approved Vision 2040 plan. And then after we started working that, all the way up through basically the end of January, I was working closely with Pulaski County to get the Act 671 and the definition of what is Sherwood versus the Gray Township, because it was kind of a blending of two things, and we have some voting districts that are split and some roads. If you live on one side, you can proceed down this path, but if you live on the other, you can't. So it was a process of really working through that, and but we got it done, and it has now been, like I said, turned over to a resident-led initiative. New businesses and expansions that occurred, and since I last spoke with you, the Holiday Inn finally opened. They had some issues, but they got there. We had New Horizons Center broke ground, and they're moving along in their construction. Expansion of River City Hydraulics, they brought in about 15 new jobs, I believe, in their process. Currently working on an expansion of Arkansas Mailing Service. Darkside Coffee had their groundbreaking and opening. 1677 Coffee Roasting opened, and now they've subsequently had an expansion to where they're actually doing coffee shop operations now. And I worked with the investor group to retain Zaxby's. They'll be opening back up in the next couple of weeks. And so they had some issues. You guys all know we had the hard freeze. And so the reason why the one in Maumelle opened up before ours is because there's some additional maintenance issues that have to take place in ours. So next couple of weeks, I'm hoping to have them back up and open. Deals currently in the works. Cybersecurity Operations Center, still working a deal with a group out of Virginia. I don't know if this one will pan out, but if it does, it's 50 jobs that we can actually house here with an average wage of $75,000. Been working with that one about a year now. We have a new Smart Innovation Corp, a nonprofit that works to recruit innovative companies that focus on supporting the DoD mission. So they're working that. As you guys know, you approved the sale of the city-owned property to Scooter's Coffee. They're in their 120-day due diligence period. I should have an update from them on kind of where they're sitting in the next couple of weeks. I've not really wanted to poke them, as I know they're trying to hash all of that out. We are working the grocery store issue. I'm restricted on what I can say on this matter because we're currently under non-disclosure agreements, and I can't really have any open dialogue at this time on that. Also working with Kemp Development and their brand partners. Examples with Kemp Development are Seven Brew, Chipotle, and Panda Express. Current pitch targets that I've reached out to and had communications with this year: Seven Brew, Chipotle, Potbelly, Jersey Mike's, Pac Mail, Sports Clips, Panda Express, Urban Air / Defy Trampoline Parks, Slick City, which is this really awesome indoor waterless water park. Yeah, they use a top technology from NASA to have water slides that have no water, but they're just as slick and you move just as quick. Working with them. Skating rink, Family Fun Center franchises looking to expand into Arkansas. Some of Sherwood's current retail gaps, which you guys know: food service and drinking places, food and beverage stores, building materials and garden supply stores, furniture and home furnishing stores, vehicles and parts dealers, and I know you don't like this one, gasoline stations are still on there. That's what happens when you have a commuter city. It does pop up on the report, but you guys have taken some decisive action to where those can locate, and I appreciate that because I know that our property moving to a gas station limits what then goes in there after. General merchandise stores, clothing and clothing accessory stores. Major growth, our barriers to growth, major growth areas in Sherwood is in the north of the city. That wet dry initiative has to be taken care of so we can catch that anchor out there. And of course, you guys all know the anchor that most fits out there is a grocery store. Lack of existing building inventory in the growth area. There's no buildings for anyone to go into. Cost of construction is really high, which is the next slide down. Lack of grease traps in any of our existing construction and high traffic areas. Minimal unskilled labor market in Sherwood is also an issue. We do have restaurant work, but no one lives in Sherwood to fill those jobs. It's a very small population. So most of the people that work in our service industry actually come in from Jacksonville, North Little Rock. And so you might pass 20 or 30 other places that you could potentially work as an unskilled labor workforce before you get to Sherwood. Lack of multifamily housing, both market and voucher rate in Sherwood, and reduced affordability of single-family homes in Sherwood are all things that are potential barriers to growth. As you guys know, with interest rates being high, cost of construction being high, of course, the cost of a new home has gone up. Does anyone have any questions for me at this time? I'll field them all. What you guys got?
Will you send that to us, please?
Absolutely.
Not like this minute, obviously.
No, just wanted to get through it quick. I know everyone's ready to go home.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, we have a presentation by Amy Sanders, Library Branch Manager. Ms. Jan Swindle.
Oh, Jeanette?
Jeanette?
You know, that screen totally blocks people who stand up their faces. We can't see them at all.
I'm gonna have to move this way down.
Oh, yeah, especially
I'm
with.
just gonna give you a little
Yes.
tip of what our year was like in 2023. We had over 100,000 people come into the library. That number's probably off because at the beginning, when we first started counting, they have to actually come into the library itself, not into the foyer. But now we have some new technology that counts them as they're coming in the front door. So we can probably add another 25,000 to that. Circulation was 132,805. That's actual items that went out of the Sanders Library here in Sherwood. Study room usage, I think we could have added 10 study rooms to that building, and they would be full nonstop. There was over 4,504 people that have used them. This year, for summer at Cal's, we renamed it in 2023. The Sanders Library had 2,404 people register for summer reading. It was the top library in the entire system. The next library behind us was Children's, and it was 724.
Wow. How much was it?
So, some things that I've done this year that that we're really proud of. I work a lot with the schools, and one school I work with is Cato Elementary. And I've learned a lot from the kids out there, and they always ask me, Ms. Janan, are you gonna feed us this summer? So, Sheena Maxwell and we had a community garden going out there. And Cal's provides all the seeds and all the plants from the children's library to plant vegetables out there where they'll have it. We also have a pop-up library out there that I go out once a week and fill it full of books and puzzles, games, and we also did a Mr. Rogers sweater drive this year. So what we did, we asked Nate Coulter, our director, told me since Sherwood, I was so involved in the community, what did I want to do? So I told him that I wanted to collect pajamas, shoes, coats for kids. and I wanted it to go to all the Sherwood schools. So that's what we did. We collected 402 items, hats, gloves, you name it. We packed 84 boxes, and Sheena and I delivered them to all the schools in the area. Food for fines. Nate also told me, said, Janelle, what do you want to do for food for fines? And I said, well, I like the food bank, but I want to keep it in the community. So this year, we asked for lunchbox food, we asked for diapers, we asked for wipes, we asked for all kinds of things. We got 608 items in 1 week.
Wow.
From the citizens of Sherwood. We packed up 246 boxes. There's enough food to keep the pantries going for, we hope, 6 months in the Sherwood area. Okay, now some bad news. I'm retiring. Yeah. After almost 30 years with Central Arkansas Library System, it's time to hang up my hat. My last day with CALS will be May 31st. Apparently I'm having a big party, according to Nate. It will be at the library at Sanders, where the patrons can come, where all my kids throughout all these years can come, and you'll all be invited. I don't know how they're sending the invites. I have no idea. But I just wanted to let y'all know because the word is now out. They've known for a while, but we have not let it out to the public yet. I am supposed to have help hire the new branch manager. And I want them community-oriented because that's really important out here. And I also think it's important to live in the community that you work in. So, but I just want to thank you for all these years, and y'all come celebrate with me.
Thank you, Janelle.
Well, and I've already talked to your peers, and you'll be coming back to the council in May because we would certainly like to do something formally to recognize you. You're welcome. All right, anything else, council members, under new business? If not, we'll move on to announcements. First up, I wanted to let you guys know, Sherwood resident Laura Hensey has been going around this year and taking pictures at all the different events. She also has done video and so forth, but the quality of her work is just excellent. And this is a really neat picture book that she has put together of just lots of different things around all things Sherwood. So if you're interested in that, we'll send you out the information, and that's Golden Aurora is the name of her business. But neat little keepsake. On March 30th at 9 a.m., we've got the Sherwood Sharks 5K Fun Run at the Bill Harmon Recreation Center. I've been told that we have so far at least 80 people signed up, so that's very exciting. Cost is $20. You can also register in person right up to the time of the race, and if you want to do that beforehand, just go to the Bill Harmon Recreation Center and then get you signed up. And then at 2 p.m., we have our annual Easter egg hunt at the City Hall Park. They have stuffed like 10,000 eggs or something. I mean, a great, with candy this year instead of the little plastic toys. So, yay, and that should be a lot of fun. We hope we have a big turnout for that, and please bring Easter baskets and cameras. Parents and the Easter Bunny will be on hand to take pictures with. For those of you who were not there, we had a wonderful sensory Easter egg hunt at the tennis center. Tanya Bell did a wonderful job with that, and much appreciate all the work that she does so that those kids could have a really special time. On Monday, April 8th, from 11 to 4 p.m., the eclipse, shadow over Sherwood at the Sherwood Sports Complex softball fields. So basically, there will be concession stands open, we've got bathrooms out there, glasses available. If you want to go to a place in Sherwood where we can control the lights and you can sit in the stands or stand on the field or what have you, that's the place to go. On Thursday, April 18th, we are all so excited around here because we kick off our concert series. It will be at the Sherwood City Hall Park from 6 to 8 p.m. featuring Mitchell McFessel. And I was told yesterday that there will be a special guest appearance by Faith Harness as well. If any council members would like to attend the Arkansas Municipal League Summer Conference, please reach out to Michelle Spohr no later than noon this Friday, March 29th, and let her know so she can get you registered in the early bird special.
I have an announcement also.
Yes, Miss.
April 20th is the Keep Sherwood Beautiful Shred-a-thon, and I know a lot of people like to do their shredding after taxes, and that is from 9 to 12 in the senior citizen parking lot. So you can bring up to 5 boxes of stuff to shred, so.
Great.
Mayor, if I-
Donations are welcome.
Yes, ma'am.
If I could just add one thing, it's the 15th year of the scholarship program, the Rotary Scholarship Program. The deadline is April 1st, so listening audience, if you have friends, relatives, enemies that are graduating seniors, get their scholarship applications in.
With the Sherwood Rotary.
Sherwood Rotary, they can
Yes, ma'am.
contact me.
I have a couple of things as well.
Yes, sir.
Mayor. On April the 19th, Friday at 6 o'clock, Shack will have their opening ceremonies on Field 1.
Oh, great.
That's Friday.
Field one. What
April the
time?
19th, Friday, April the 19th at 6 o'clock.
6 p.m.
Yep.
Thank you.
Also, I need to make a quick announcement too. As most of you know, the best part of me over there has been battling cancer for going on 3 years now. She's doing great. She's doing real well. Thanks to, everybody's prayers, and we really appreciate it. And it's been a tough decision, but we decided together really about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that I was not going to run again. So kind of like Charlie, I'm announcing tonight that I will not run again, so we can have more folks run for my spot. But my priorities have changed. So, yeah, she's my priority. So anyway, I've enjoyed it and loved it, and I'm not done yet. Got a few months left, but anyway, just wanted to let y'all know.
Thank you. And thank you for your service. If City Council may allow public comment at this time, we do have one person signed up.
He
and
says no.
He says no.
He's declining.
He is declining. All right. So I will entertain a
Move to
motion.
adjourn.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? We have-
Michael?